Welcome to Health Literacy Out Loud. I'm Helen Osborne, President of Health Literacy Consulting, founder of Health Literacy Month, and author of the book Health Literacy from A to Z. I also produce and host this Health Literacy Out Loud podcast series that focuses on many aspects of health communication, patient education, and health literacy. Today's guests are both involved with Canine Companions, an organization that provides trained service dogs to disabled adults and children, as well as facility dogs working in many settings. Gerard has worked with Canine Companions for nearly a decade, including 5 years as a trainer. He now serves as the program field representative for the Northeast region. Eli assists with all aspects of the program, including puppy raising support, placement of dogs released from the program, and direct work with the clients. He brings to this his experience working in special education and his enjoyment of many outdoor activities. Jennifer Johnson has worked as a child life specialist at Sutter Health in California for over 30 years. Most of that time, she specialized in pediatric oncology, supporting children and families as they navigate the significant stress and challenges of cancer treatment. In 2004, Jennifer became a Canine Companions graduate with her first facility dog named Millie. Together, they were pioneers in integrating facility dogs into the pediatric units at Sutter Health. Jennifer has worked with several dogs since, including her newest one named Bill. There are now 16 facility dog graduate teams across the Sutter Health systems. As Jennifer told me as we were getting ready for this, the positive impact of these dogs is truly powerful medicine. Welcome to Health Literacy Out Loud to you both.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Helen. Nice to be here.
Well, I've used the term Canine Companions. You're both affiliated with that organization. Tell us more about Canine Companions, please.
Sure. Yeah. So we are a national organization. We have 6 locations around the country. We have a national campus based out of Santa Rosa, California. We just finished our 50th anniversary.
Wow.
So we are the largest service dog organization, not just in the country, but I actually believe in the world. And so we have been training and placing service dogs for adults, children, and veterans with physical disabilities for that 50 years. And basically to go through a lengthy process of starting their life with volunteer breeder caretakers out in California. And then they spend the next year and a half with volunteer puppy raisers all across the country. Literally in all 50 states, we have volunteer puppy raisers that will build the foundation of socialization, basic skills, your general, body positioning, as well as going over different surfaces, exposure to different environments and public transportation. And then after that time frame, all the dogs will go to one of our 6 campuses. And they spend another about 6 months or so in professional training. Yeah. Reviewing all the skills that they learn in their puppy raiser home. And then they're going to be learning all of the advanced skills that they will then use with their graduates. And then when the graduates come, you can see there's a lot of different timestamps here.
Yes, I asked you to give the overview, and you are, but I have so many questions. I want to start from the beginning. You talked about breeders. Could these be any dogs? I mean, they're special ones, they're trained, and they're special to you, but take it from the beginning. What kind of dogs?
So we have Labrador retrievers, golden retrievers, and crosses of the two. And we do utilize our own breeding program. And that's not to diminish, the positive traits of rescues and all sorts of different breeds that are out there. But we have found that over the course of this 50 years, that to get the highest success rate and to be able to serve the greatest amount of people, when you're utilizing dogs where you know their temperament ahead of time, you can look for specific traits such as sociability, comfortability around other dogs, not being as startled in public. we can look for those specific traits, and then we have a higher success rate of dogs that actually go on to be service dogs.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Now, when you use the term service dogs, you've used a few different terms here. You're called canine companions. You've used the term service dogs, and I know we're specifically going to be talking about facility dogs. And Jennifer, you have tremendous experience with that one. Are these all the same? I mean, is it just a matter of where the dog is being used and how? Or are there differences in service dogs?
There are differences, and I would say like the two things to keep in mind or to really highlight are, one is that service dogs, they've been individually trained to perform work or tasks that are going to assist a person with disabilities. That's number one, is that they are specifically task trained.
Okay.
And then of all those dogs that we kind of had mentioned, we will be highlighting facility dogs today, but service dogs are the only ones that have public access. So when they are with their client, what we call a graduate, these are the only dogs that are allowed to go out into public versus the facility dogs, therapy dogs, emotional support dogs. None of those other categories of dogs have public access.
And when you say public access, is that the sign that you can see when you go into a restaurant or wherever you go, service dogs only?
Yeah, that's a great point. So public access follows the individual who has the disability. So the dogs themselves do not actually have any access. They don't get to choose that I want to go into this establishment. So if they are with their recipient, they can go into any type of public location while they are with their graduate. If you or I are not the recipient with the disability and we are trying to go into that establishment with that dog, the public access follows the individual, not the dog. So that is when you see that sign that says service dogs only, that is what they are referring to.
Okay.
And just to add to that, the facility dog only has access in its place of work.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I can only bring my facility dog to my workplace because that's where his job is.
Interesting. And when you talk about people with disabilities, so I know, Jennifer, we're going to talk about it in hospital-based, but people with disabilities, can you just give an example of how a dog might be used?
It is kind of the sky's the limit, but a lot of times we have a core foundation of skills that we teach. So for a lot of our clientele that we serve, there's going to be things like picking up dropped items. So pretty much everyone has a cell phone. They go out with us daily. It's also something that we are constantly taking in and out of a pocket, out of a jacket, out of a purse. And so it's very easy to fumble. And if somebody maybe uses mobility equipment, dropping a cell phone could either be using a lot of energy to bend over to try to get it from their mobility equipment, or even impossible. So the dog can actually pick up the dropped item and then deliver it to that individual so they could get their phone back or their water bottle, their keys.
Okay, I just have to stop you there. I think of a dog, they're going to pick up the cell phone off the floor, get their spit all over it and give it back. Is that how it works? Or is there something more artful and graceful than that?
Well, I mean, no, I wouldn't say it's much more artful or graceful than that, but not all dogs are going to be ultra drooly. And that's not to say that we don't have some that might be more than others.
Okay.
But generally speaking, most of the dogs, like your typical lab and golden, they might drool when you put the food down, but they're not just constantly having the shoelaces hang out of their mouth. So they're pretty good. You might get a little bit on there, but they're pretty good. You get your cell phone back in well working order without too much drool on.
Okay. And then you said that they're trained. So are they trained with words? Just something fall? Do you say cell phone or do you say pick up or what do you say?
So the word that we use is get. So that is our word, is a formal cue to pick it up. And we typically try not to use any hand cues. We might use the hand cues in the training process to help a puppy learn, what we're working on to move around our body. But once the dogs turn into professional training, we really focus on verbal only, because again, we might have clientele who do not have the dexterity to give the same hand cues that another individual might be able to do. So we try to rely solely on verbal cues.
So what would be some of the verbal cues? So get is one of them.
Yep. We try to keep things as pretty logical as possible. So let's say we needed a dog to open an automatic door and they're going to push the push plate. Well, we're going to use the cue push, and that we've taught the dog to target that area with their nose so that they will hit that push plate with their nose. It opens the automatic door. And then we have a lot of movement cues around the body to kind of position them. So, even though it's not as hard of a skill as far as picking up an item, like an actual see it, feel it, you can kind of tell the start and finish. But when you're navigating the world, especially if you're using mobility equipment, a dog being in a proper position, either on your left-hand side of your body and your right-hand side of your body, not going too far in front of you, not falling behind you, is incredibly important for anybody who is walking a dog so that they don't get dragged around. But particularly with people using mobility equipment, that is something that's very imperative. So we have a lot of positional cues. And then if we were having the item, let's say the drop cell phone or the car keys, depending on what the recipient needs or how they would like that item brought back to them, we have 3 different, they're called deliveries, as far as how the item is brought back to the individual. So it might be the dog putting their front paws on like the foot plate of a wheelchair, so the dog's facing you. We might have a dog that puts their whole, basically like their elbows in your lap to get them a little bit higher up. That might be something that's needed. So we have all different cues like that to help deliver the items.
Wow, it's fascinating listening to this. But I also want to talk about their function and their use and real stories about that. So you put this, Eli, very nicely into context. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Jennifer, your focus is a term I hadn't heard till I started planning this podcast with you about facility dogs. Tell us more about that, please.
Yes. So facility dogs, just to kind of lay out some groundwork, facility dogs are different than what a therapy dog would do. A therapy dog is a dog that would be with a volunteer that would come in and just visit a hospital, which is wonderful. But facility dogs are very different. They're professionally trained, just like Eli was talking about, for about 2 years, and they work full time with a single handler. In this case, obviously, my facility dog works with me. And they are used intentionally during procedures, education, during treatment, not just for comfort. They're really, truly a part of the clinical team. It's a very well thought out process.
Oh, tell us more about how a dog can be part of a clinical team. That's a new concept. I was in hospital years, never saw that.
So my role in the hospital is to help children cope with being in the hospital. And all of my interventions and plans are all based off of child development and where a child is in the developmental realm. And so I use my facility dog as one of my tools that helps kids cope with being here. And so what that would look like is, let's say I have a patient that has just had surgery and they need to get up and walk afterwards. And so it's very different to have your nurse come in and say, you have to get up and walk. Or I can show up with Bill and say, hey, will you help me take Bill for a walk?
Oh,
Which one's more enticing, right? Taking Bill for a walk. And so what that does is it motivates the child to get up. And again, with Bill's skills and being trained, and like Eli was talking about body positioning, Bill can walk very, very slowly next to myself and the patient and an IV pole and a parent and a nurse, and not scurry or get out of the way or try to back up. He stays very focused on walking just as fast or as slow as I need him to in order for that patient to go for their walk. And he also is trained to not be distracted by other people around him saying, hi, Bill. Oh, you're so cute doing your job. Because again, if he breaks his focus, that would not be safe.
I mean, I imagine all children would always choose to walk with Bill rather than just walk with the nurse.
Sure.
Nothing against nurses, but Bill is much cuter. What are you doing during that time? Because I like that image you really made vivid about all the people going down the hall with the child and the dog and everybody else. What are you doing? You're the partner with Bill.
Right. So my job is to make sure that he is safe and doing his job and having to redirect him if I need to, which doesn't happen very often. I need to make sure that the patient is safe, but I'm also engaging with the patient as we're walking. Maybe they're holding the leash and we're talking about, let's walk down to the playroom. There's an activity on the table. What do you think it's going to be? So building our communication and our trust with each other between myself and the patient, but using, again, Bill as my medium.
Okay. And what in hospital? So you're on pediatric and oftentimes pediatric oncology. You've got children with a whole array of serious physical needs, medical needs. How does a dog fit in there to be able to deal with it in a health and safety way?
Yeah, there are so many positive benefits to having our facility dogs within our healthcare system. And if you think about just how calm a dog makes people feel, a calm patient is a more informed patient. They're more willing to listen and to be involved in their care. Facility dogs don't really replace any medical care. They just enhance the patient's ability to be able to engage with the system.
When you're talking about that, I'm thinking of that from my health literacy perspective.
Mhm.
I don't know how much you know about health literacy, but it's really helping communicate in ways people can understand. Of course, the dog has no words.
Right.
Do you think that the dog helps in that conversation and the child's learning?
Absolutely, because when anxiety drops, then understanding goes up. And so people are more present and in the moment when they're feeling less anxious. And is that a skill that Bill knows? Is it one of his cues? No, but just his presence of being there and being calm and well trained, that creates this environment where people are willing to take in and listen and understand what's happening.
Okay.
And, there's lots of other ways that we use our facility dogs. We'll use them maybe for socialization between patients. So let's say I've got two patients, they're around the same age. I want them to meet each other, but I can use Bill and a fetch session out in the hallway to get them out of their rooms, to get them out throwing the ball, which is great for Bill and exercise. It's great for the patient to get moving, but it also starts conversation between the two patients and gets them to know each other. Oh, hey, I see you've got the same kind of pole I've got. Oh, you have the same kind of tube that I have. Oh, I see you have no hair like me. And so it starts
Oh my
creating these
goodness.
conversations that really help children feel like, they're not alone. And it also then, to layer on that, it also lets the parents start chit-chatting. And so then they can create a community within that unit. And it's all because we brought Bill out in the hall to have a fetch session. But behind the scenes, it's checking a lot of boxes that are in the care plan of things that I want to accomplish with that patient. And so it's really quite magical to see it happen when you just add a dog into the environment.
Well, you have a shared focus, and the focus right then is not ill health.
Exactly. Yeah. There's oftentimes that our role is to help children understand why they are in the hospital. And so our facility dogs, I'll give you an example of our facility dogs that work in our day unit. So the day unit is a place where children come in from home to have some sort of surgery done or procedure done, and then they get to go home afterwards or they get admitted into the hospital. We will use our facility dogs in that area to help the child understand the surgical process. And so, first of all, the dog can get up in the gurney with the child, which is very
Oh,
comforting.
really? Jump up on the gurney?
They snuggle right on in with them. We can have the facility dog help lay next to the patient while they get their IV placed. And so the focus would be, rubbing the dog's head with one hand while the nurse is putting the IV in the other hand. And so that really helps calm the patients. But then we will use our teaching tools for kids going off to surgery. For instance, they get to see what the mask looks like, of what the anesthesia mask looks like before they fall asleep. Because if you know about something ahead of time, you're going to be less stressed about it. Even if it's scary, if knowledge is power. And so we'll use the mask and show on the dog and hold the mask up to the dog's face and say, this is what it looks like on Bill. Let's try it on you. And so again, using Bill as the tool, I could still get my job done without Bill. I mean, I can teach a child all about going to surgery without Bill, but he just really enhances that whole process and really makes it less scary for the kids.
I love these stories. Thank you so much. Does anything ever go wrong with this?
These are the most reliable dogs, which is why it's so important to pair with an organization that's affiliated with Assistance Dogs International. They're the governing body over the service dog world. And so we find it very, very important and have a very strong opinion that partnering with an organization that is affiliated and a member of Assistance Dogs International is really important because we do put our dogs in precarious positions, and we need to be able to have very trustworthy, reliable dogs that can come into the hospital to do this job.
Of course you do. Are dogs used, you said this is an international group, your overseeing body. Are dogs used in this similar way throughout the world?
Yes, actually, there's quite a strong facility dog program in Japan, and they actually flew here and looked at our program before they got there started, which was kind of fun.
Oh, how fun, how fun. So let me tell you about the listeners to this podcast. So I imagine they're as fascinated as I am to learn about all this. We may be working in healthcare, or maybe health professionals of some ilk. We might be in public health, maybe at a community organization. And wherever we're working, whatever we're doing, we're all caring people who want to make things better today than they were yesterday. Are there ways for any of us to get involved with Canine Companions or know about it? What would you like to tell our listeners?
Thank you for even bringing that up. But being a national nonprofit, we are supported by donors, by volunteers, by puppy raisers, by the community. And so if there was somebody in healthcare, let's say your listeners, and they might be interested in doing something like Jennifer's doing and becoming a facility dog handler because they could see the benefit of how that might work in occupational therapy or physical therapy or something along those lines, I would say to have them go to canine.org, which is our website. And that's where you're going to find all information about if you either want to become a volunteer, so maybe a volunteer puppy raiser, or help out at an event, or just become like Jennifer, go through the application process of becoming a facility dog handler or a service dog handler and applying for a service dog. That's all going to be done through canine.org. And that's how somebody could get involved with the organization.
And I do want to say, Helen, that I'm not sure that we've mentioned this, that Canine Companions provides their dogs free of charge to the recipient. And there are not a lot of organizations that do that. And they are also partnered with the graduate for the lifetime of the working dog. And so it doesn't just end when you bring the dog home. Canine Companions partners with you throughout your whole, at least my career, and helps me troubleshoot or just to be a resource or just to communicate what's happening. The follow-up program is absolutely amazing with Canine Companions.
I am just so impressed by this. I mean, the love of dogs, certainly I have that. So many people do. Obviously, both of you do. But it covers so many people. It's such a human quality, and that's coming through. And being able to use dogs as a part of healthcare and health understanding and helping us all be better. I thank you both so much for sharing this information with our listeners. I really encourage people to go to your website. You have information, you have videos. That's how I got intrigued by that, and that led to this conversation. So you're very generous in sharing that too. So I thank you for all of that, and I thank you for the work that you do each and every day to help us all be better. So thank you for being guests on Health Literacy Out Loud.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Helen.
As we just heard from Jennifer Johnson and Eli Gerard, canines, dogs can be part of health communication too. but communicating clearly and empathetically in ways that help everyone is not always easy. For help clearly communicating your health message, please take a look at my book, Health Literacy from A to Z. Feel free to also explore my website, healthliteracy.com, or contact me directly at helen@healthliteracy.com. New Health Literacy Out Loud interviews come out the first of every month. You can get them all for free by subscribing at healthliteracyoutloud.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Please help spread the word about health literacy out loud. Together, let's tell the whole world why health literacy matters. Until next time, I'm Helen Osborne.